So, I found this John Dewey quote today. Dewey is one of the fathers of pragmatism, this philosophy that truth is what works. It's a giant inspirational force behind the whole wisdom workshop, that we can design learning experiences that work for ourselves. But he said, real learning, I added it to this. We don't learn from our experiences. We learn from reflecting on our experiences. So there's a sense that when we actually reprocess what's happened, that's when the learning actually happens. We don't learn from our experiences, we learn from reflecting on our experiences. In Buddhist psychology, there's a cognitive sequence that they actually break down each moment of consciousness into 17 different pieces. So each moment, and it's like all in the apprehension and so on and so forth, like there's like 14 different Sanskrit words that are embedded into one moment. And they call it the cognitive sequence of any moment. Supposedly enlightenment happens at the reflecting stage. So it's the part of it where you realize what happened. You look back and you're like, so I guess I got enlightened, which is interesting to me, as I would imagine that you would know it. Like you'd be like, oh, I'm there. But according to that, you actually get there when you look back on where you just were and it hits you. You're like, oh, wow, that happened. So anyway, so what I'm thinking about contextualizing this idea of reflection is a key part of any learning process. And so one of the goals that I have for all of us is to basically learn how to learn or think about how to take more ownership over your own lifelong learning. That's the whole idea of the wisdom workshop, right? Like you're in your own wisdom workshop. You might be doing that as a wedding photographer or as a spiritual counselor or as a UX designer or as a, I don't know what you do, Dana, like working with your dad, but no longer, whatever, or working as a caretaker on a farm or teaching classes, but we are each in our own wisdom workshop. Like we are each in a capacity to like go into the shop, build some shit, and then be like, that actually worked out okay. Or I think the next time I'm gonna do a little bit more like this. That was my inspiration for the whole thing was, I was realizing, man, I'm spending a lot of time remodeling my garage. I wonder what would happen if I actually spent that much time remodeling myself? Is that even possible? Is that a dumb question? And I'm like, no, that's actually kind of a cool question. How would I remodel myself? Where do the shelves go? What do I need to take out of here to make room for these other things to go in here? So with that being said, this is about y'all. I'm curious. Reflections on where we've been and what we want to take moving forward. I probably just shouldn't have talked all that time.
I can share.
All right, thanks, Nick.
I think for me, the biggest takeaway has been learning how to recover from my failures quicker. I feel like that's something that I've always struggled with. I've failed or fallen and then stayed down for way too long, at its worst, months at a time. But I feel like I've had a number of things happen and experiences and sensations of just feeling really, really down on myself since I started this program. And I feel like the combination of meeting weekly and staying accountable and being vulnerable with all of you, and reading and journaling, reading the books that are assigned to us and journaling with the prompts, all of it together, just talking about what's important in life every week has really helped me put things into perspective, not only better, but quicker than usual. I noticed that my bad days will only spend 2 to 3 days usually before I pick myself back up and get back at it. And that used to be regularly weeks for me. That's what I want to carry with me most of all is just keep on focusing on not being perfect all the time, not focusing on being good all the time, but focusing on getting back to being good, getting back to living the good life. Oh, and that's another thing, really focusing on just the terminology living the good life has really helped me. I feel like it's every now and then I'll just ask myself, am I living the good life? I'm like, oh, hell no. is like just sitting and watching Netflix all day. Is that living the good life? No, like, let me call my mom. You know, like let me actually like do something for someone else instead of feel bad for myself. And I think how all of you in your own ways have taught me like certain lessons of what it means to live the good life, whether it be through reflecting on yourself and your experiences, and or just like straight up saying advice. I don't know, like I feel like all of you have taught me a lot. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, on the note of vulnerability, I think that was a big part, just how powerful vulnerability can be. Especially, I don't think I'll ever forget that time that you shared, Nick, about what you struggled with in the past, and just kind of what a holy moment that felt like, and how it really felt like it opened everyone up to be able to connect to each other even. And I think you were consoling me even. I can't remember if this is the case, but when, you know, like I was zoned out for a few days and I was struggling to like not spend time on social media, and you were just like saying, I struggled with that too. And I even, you know, I struggled with this and it got this bad. And like, it made me feel less alone. And I think the power of community, just having like, it just blows my mind how just having each other, even though we don't know each other that well, we are all committed to coming together and presenting what we thought about this week, kind of, you know, and how transformative and powerful that is, that I feel like we all care about each other and care about what we're thinking about, you know? So that's something that I want to carry with me. And I'm, you know, I read the chapter on community and designing your life this week, and I'm like thinking about people I could do this with, and but then I was like, but if there's not a master or mentor like Sean, like how would we do it? But then I'm like, wait, that's not what the chapter is about. Like, it's just finding people who are capable of doing that and rolling with it, you know? But anyway, so that was a big takeaway. Like, I think community is so important, and just really experiencing community and the transformative power that will stick with me. And then also just the like, I'm not as afraid of failure because of the decision-making process that's offered in this course. Like, it's better to start with so many decisions than to try to hammer one to death until it works or doesn't. Like, that is so, it's just, I think that's going to be life-changing for me. And I think even when I'm thinking about dating, like, I grew up in a culture that said the more you date, the more you're giving pieces of your heart away. And like, that's really stunning me. So like thinking, man, and thinking about it, like having interviews with, like just asking people where they are in life and how they got there. Like and now I'm like, what if I made a project when I feel good about it to like go on as many dates as I possibly can over the course of a certain amount of time? Like, that feels really scary, but like, I'm just like, that could be a project. But yeah, it feels a lot less scary now, having like worked through some of this material. So I just see myself using that a lot in a lot of different ways. So I'm so thankful for that. Dana. Okay, just for you.
Ooh, that's a good blog. It's a really good one. I would want to read that. I also feel like if you just approach it like an interview, that seems like a really awesome project. Like, it also like puts you in a really nice position of power where it's like, look, buddy, you're just one of 40. What do you got? Like, awesome. Like, awesome. Like, that will be a good way to tell, you know? I don't know. That's how I kind of, but maybe I don't know if, anyway, it's really
I
not.
totally agree, Kelly, though, that message that I think Dana and I got that message too of like, you're giving pieces of your heart away. That sounds very familiar to me. And now that I'm, a grown up, having been through job interviews or interviews for awards or positions or boards or whatever, most of the time, what served me the most is thinking about how you're really looking for a good fit for both of you, especially for jobs. And if it's not about winning the interview or winning your date or winning your soulmate or like finding this magical thing, it's like finding a place that's a good fit, that's a good life, that you guys both agree on, that if you're in a job, you're both working towards the same thing. And I feel like as kids, maybe we didn't get that message all the time. So I think it's a great idea. Find a good fit.
I also I can't remember which book this was in, but asking people how they're unstable, basically how they're psychotic, because everyone basically approaching it like just getting rid of the looking for a perfect partner kind of thing, but basically being like, okay, so how are you a difficult person to be with is a good interview question. If you're looking for fit, it's going to tell you a lot. And if you can deal with someone when they're at their worst and you can be honest with each other about what that looks like, that's the kind of vulnerability. Also, I'll have to share you the 36 questions that make you fall in love with anyone. Did I share that with you? Okay, I'll have to find that. Some researchers did a study on vulnerability. They basically designed questions that are increasingly vulnerable. And they found that if you ask those questions with someone, that these feelings of intimacy came up. And I think some of the people that were in the study fell in love with each other because the questions make you vulnerable. And their hypothesis was if you're vulnerable with another human being and you look at them in the eyes when you're talking, you will naturally feel connected to them. Which is interesting. When you said, Kelly, when Nick shared his story, you didn't just feel connected to Nick. Everyone felt more connected to everyone else because of Nick's share. That was far out. I felt that too. And I was like, oh, so that's how this works. We're all human beings and we're just waiting for someone to pull back the facade of control that we have in our culture, which is totally toxic. And definitely not helpful if you're dating for a long-term partner. So cool and interesting share. I'll have to find that article before we get off. And I had to say, how can we do this without a master mentor? I think Nick said that he learning from everyone in the space is really the way to go. I think there's facilitation skills, but honestly, Kelly, I feel like you're one of the people I would want to reach out to if I was hiring facilitators. I feel like you would be really good in this role that I'm holding right now. So I don't think it's not just you. I think anybody can do that if you create the space for that. It's also hard to find people to do it with, though, astonishingly. I feel like when I did that exercise, I'm like, who else would want to do this? I don't know. I need to freaking start a workshop. So I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling too. But I do have at least 2 people I think would be interested. So I might just start there.
Great. Yeah, and see if they. Awesome. Good luck. Anybody else want to go? Or comment on Nick or Kelly's?
I have something. I'm just switching rooms though, so if somebody wants to go before me, that's great.
I'll go. Kind of bouncing off of what Nick and Kelly have said. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I haven't talked about it, but I was in a 3-year relationship that I ended 6 months ago, but she still lives on the same property as me until next month. So I've been going through a whole world of really sad, drawn out heartbreak and trying to rediscover myself and put the pieces back together. but also living in a really isolated place. And so for me, having this group to hang out with has been like re-entering into the world itself. And it's been really powerful to kind of get to see all these personalities and hear everybody's cool stories and insights. And it's drawn me out of a pretty sad place, and it's actually given me a whole brand new faith in people. And that's pretty special. I'm excited to interact with people again, and I've been pretty locked into hiding out lately. So for me, that's a really deep personal, a blessing, a big one. And then otherwise, it's been really touching to also be involved with Sean Waters doing what he's so good at doing, and watching how it works. And I always fantasized I would just like sneak into one of his college classes and get to really experience him in that place. And this has been probably even way better than that would have been. So that's been huge. And also having this has made me feel like I have an obligation to finish my project. And that's exciting because I feel like I owe it to all of you as much as myself. So that's what I'm taking with me. And I'm sad that this is our last day.
Thanks, Johnny. I'm going to wait to comment on what I want to say to that one.
I mean, does anything need to be said from my perspective? Just freaking wow. Johnny, all love, man. Cool stuff.
Thank you.
Having faith in people is like one of those things that can be utterly transformative in general, right? Which I feel like just crucial moving forward. Our media environment is so toxic, and I think a lot of our culture is really toxic. And when you get to interact with people that you like really believe in, or that you see what they're doing, and so many people are doing such like working really hard to be really good people, and they're all like just nose down working hard. So I totally feel that. Yeah, that's a big one. It's huge. Whew.
All right, I can share. I think like my biggest takeaway for this course has been, I mean, the serendipity thing as like a skill has been really, it's a really cool perspective to take on something like practicing something like gratitude, but instead of like attributing gratitude to like a certain person or like a certain thing, it's kind of giving that faith into a benevolent universe, I guess. Which, as Sean pointed out, I can be a bit of a Debbie Downer sometimes. So
Did I point that out?
You may have mentioned it at some point, and that was my takeaway. So no, it was helpful. It was a helpful thing. It was more of like a razzing situation. I'm cool. But that's something that in like the work that I do, it is really hard. It's really easy to like lose. I believe in good people, but like I believe like the universe is, I guess, a bit shitty. So that's been something that's been very helpful for me personally, to attribute some of those things to some sort of benevolent energy out in the ether, I guess. And with that, I've noticed with myself has come like a bit of curiosity. Something that was said early on that I'm sure Sean, you sent it out, or it was maybe in a bit of the reading, was writing for figuring something out instead of writing to say something. So approaching things with that curiosity. And that's been something that's been very transformative in the way that I write what like I've been writing at, is that in the past, I kind of sat down and was like, okay, what do I want to say? And then as I kind of developed that in my head, then I would write it instead of just kind of starting writing and then taking what I want to say from that. So that curiosity has been like really, really, I don't know, helpful for me. I've been feeling like with the work that I do, it's very vulnerable all the time. Every day I get to meet people at their worst, probably the worst day of their life. And with that vulnerability comes just like a heaviness that is inescapable. And there's very high burnout with the profession that I've chosen to do. And this has been something that turning things over to that curiosity and like giving that the space has been very helpful for me to not only like assess that burnout rate in myself, but also to combat it in a little bit of a way of exploring it in different ways instead of just being like, oh, I'm feeling burnt out, I'm gonna go do self-care. Kind of fleshing things out a lot more has been just very helpful. And that's kind of what I've been doing a lot with this course. So yeah, I hope to take that curiosity kind of with me in the future. And I think that that's a big thing that I couldn't necessarily wrap my head around to put onto our like little sheet of how like the not benchmarks, the like skills to do if you're you know, trying to get out of a rut, that like Google sheet that we kind of all added to last week. I don't necessarily know how to put that in there because it's not like an activity. It's just kind of approaching things with that curiosity, I guess.
That kind of ties into mine, that I mean, I feel like, I guess I've been trying to be more aware of the goals that I'm setting for myself that are actually really my own goals and the goals that I think I should do because of like wanting to build the wisdom workshop or wanting to write this book or wanting to release a successful EP or like these things that I think that I want versus the things that I actually want. And it is like this curiosity piece that I'm like, well, is this really what I want to do? Because a lot of the things that I feel like I want to do, when I start doing them, I just start this feeling of like, you know, it's like burnout. Like I can feel the burnout coming on. It might not be right away, but it's like, so it's like constantly reassessing like what it is, why I'm doing. So in like a different way from what you said, I feel like there's a celebration in just like being here still and like doing this. Like I feel like it's a big celebration for me. So I applaud you for the work that you're doing. And I think it's amazing that you found, I do think curiosity is a skill, being able to ask those questions precisely in the moments that as we're in situations that are really difficult. Not only like, and I don't even think it's like, I don't even want to say anything like about, I can see it's hard to put in because it's not like how you would apply that. I feel like is different almost every time. You can't just like, I don't know. For me, it's like kind of checking where I'm coming from and why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it's like a gray area.
And that's exactly it. The why I'm doing what I'm doing, that has like just reevaluating that on like a pretty not regular on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
That's something that has come up pretty much every single Wednesday that we've had this class. And I feel like I'm still in like a good place with it, but it's definitely a really good skill to have that curiosity of being open to that, to it being no sometimes, I guess. Or like, I don't want to do this today or something like that, I guess.
No, I think that's it. It's like being really willing to do that and really like take it, like for myself too. There's been times where I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, and it's interesting, like that self-compassion piece is, I think, really huge when you're doing service work. It's like the whole thing in some ways, to keep on playing the infinite game, as it were.
Also, a serendipity moment, if I can share that just super quick. I talked to somebody recently that was very stuck in, they, you know, suffer from different sorts of disabilities, and even before COVID, they really struggled leaving their house, and now COVID has happened. And like their biggest thing, which I applaud them for like recognizing this, but they're just like, I'm just insanely lonely. I just lack all this connection. And I was able to like turn them towards Clubhouse. I was like, well, there's this really cool app where you can like connect with people about either silly things or like really deep things. It's kind of neat. And they went home and did that. And that was super cool, because I would not have even known that Clubhouse was a thing if I did not do this. So neat.
Awesome. I'm glad.
Can I go next?
Please.
Mine is just a really, like, it started with Chris and his share, and then Sean, you just only spoke to it more. So Chris, you spoke about, right, the high burnout rate in your line of work. And then Sean expressed feeling of burnout, which as somebody who observes you, Sean, and watches your stuff, I'm amazed that you're going as strong as you are. It's impressive what you're doing. You're doing a lot, friend. You're doing a lot. And it means something, which is why you're doing a lot. But in my space too, this like sustainability thing that I exist in, you know, we as like sustainability people try to stand up to climate change, you know, social justice, poverty divides, you know, heavy shit every day. And I am completely exhausted. I am burnt out, which is why I'm going to the desert this weekend to go backpacking for a couple of days. And I think I'm actually going to finish my project there, which I'm excited about. But I want to read what I wrote in our free write, because it kind of speaks to some of what I've been feeling the last couple of months. So this last 2 months has felt like a battle here in the Veraverse, a battle for the designer's soul. Will it be balanced or unbalanced? I've been stuck in orbit between a planet called Fire Friction and its moon, the Wisdom Workshop. Round and round, up and down. Fire Friction is a place looking to distract you, to overwhelm you, to discourage you. Its moon, though, orbits the planet as if blanketing the traveler in peace. This moon brings calm, a compass, and new friends fit for the fight, the Wisdom Warriors. Fire Friction has wrecked me, torn me down, and spit me out. It feeds the climate anxiety and the heartbreak I feel for my fellow humans. It puts pressure on me. It weighs me down. But I am tougher than I was, clearer on what matters and clearer on what doesn't matter. This battle is won. Alone, I was losing miserably, but with the Wisdom Warriors, I win. The designer will walk forward with the Wisdom Warriors, a bit changed, a bit better, and with a bit of balance bubbling in the soul, onward and upward. Thanks. Yeah, I've been carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders the last like 4 months, and it was all good for a couple of months, but I'm trying to, you know, show that my crazy ass decision to leave my job and my income was good, you know, and the right thing to do for my wife. I have 3 co-founders, 3 other co-founders, one who just left her job because she believes in what we're doing. Third, my best friend in the whole world thinks that this is his way out of, you know, going through like a soul sucking, you know, technology consultancy thing that he's doing right now that's just warping him. He's got 3 kids too, so he's a busy dude. And so he's excited about what we're doing. And then our other co-founder, I'm less worried about because he's always doing a bunch of different projects. But I've felt the pressure of trying to come through for them because they're putting a lot of their future in my hands a little bit. Which is kind of everything I live for, but also a lot of pressure. And so this workshop came at just the right moment, but it's almost like it got dropped in right when the battle was actually beginning. And the tools that I've been given and the exploration, it's like one of those things that it's opened a lot of it's like the floodgates kind of got open, but it truly was like the wisdom workshop was this thing like shielding me and helping me find my way through that intensity. And so, yeah, I mean, to Johnny's point, you know, this is a special thing we've done. And it's funny because you couldn't have timed it more perfectly, Sean. Virtually, like right now with everybody's disconnect, my wife and I hid away because she was pregnant and we were about to have a baby and we didn't know what the hell this virus was. So like we've been hiding for, you know, a year and a half. And we've seen people and done some things, but for the most part, we've been locked into our tiny little condo here in the mountains. And this workshop just like, it was like a blessing from the heavens. And I'm not a religious person per se, but I'll tell you what, it is synchronicity. I don't know, or something. I don't know what it is, but thank you, truly.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Comments? I think with a collaborative venture, you got to remember that people are making the decision because they believe in the process and that it's their choice after all. So if the thing doesn't work, they're aware of that, right?
Right.
So I think our responsibility is to do the best that you can. The other thing that's really interesting in the imagery that you said of the moon and the fire, there's a distinction, that reminded me of every time I remember it, I love it, between the water wisdom mind, this is from Chinese philosophy, and the fire mental mind, the fire monkey mind. The water wisdom mind is actually located in the Dan Tian, which means heaven's gate in Chinese, which is down it's like a fist's length. If you put your fist underneath your belly button so that your top finger is on your belly button. And so it's like, I don't want to show you my belly, but so it's like, I was going to stand up and like, no, that's bad. That's bad Zoom form. Don't demonstrate.
And it's going out on YouTube too.
Yeah, don't. No, so yeah, this touches your belly button. And then where the bottom of your hand is this like soft part. It's like actually, and then so that point, which is, you know, this far underneath your belly button, is the actual center of your being. So like Michelangelo, right? This point underneath is heaven's gate, but that's where the water wisdom mind is. What's interesting about that water wisdom mind, it's non-judgmental. It is like effortless. It's not, and then the fire mind is all of our thinking, but like it gets manifested as a knot, like above, like not in our chest, but like in our upper stomach. So when I was working with this Chinese healer, or the woman that I did my master's work with, I was telling her like, I just sometimes get this knot like in my stomach and it's weird. And I was like, trying to do energy work on it to like get it to go down. And she's like, no, it's a terrible idea. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, no, you need to put your attention down here. So put your attention on that point. If you notice when you put your hand there, it's like, oh, I never pay attention to that point right down there. Because that's like, I don't know, it's just like the set, like, point being, if you put more of your attention down on that area, which is in Chinese, this is like the yin of the yin. So it's super receptive. It's like the most receptive part of our whole body. It's not active at all. Basically, she was like, take your attention, your knot in your stomach is because you're trying to control everything. And you can't. And you trying to get that to go down is just more of your control. So what you need to do is actually put attention on this receptivity, put attention on this Dan Tian, and watch what happens. So she did that exercise like for 3 minutes, and the knot in my stomach literally like started to undo itself. And I'm like, holy shit. She's like, yeah, you've been doing it wrong. I'm like, okay. Thanks, teacher.
I'm going to the desert this weekend, so I might just have to
focus on the Dan Tien. I keep wanting to stand up and show everybody. It's like so terrible.
So what do you do to focus on it, Sean? Like just
So you basically put they say like you can actually just put your hand on it and just put your attention on it. So like we could do like a mind. So if you just put your hand on that, like put your hand on that spot and feel like feel where your hand is. And just put your attention on it. Now what's going to happen when you do a mindfulness of the body exercise is that your mind is going to go all over. Like you'll start thinking, I'm starting to think about how this is going to look. Now I'm actually thinking about my shoulders. Basically my mind is going everywhere but where I'm trying to tell it to go. Maybe it's just because I have an overactive mind, but that's what everybody's mind does. So the goal with mindfulness is you're not trying to get your mind to stop. You're just trying to recognize, see what it's doing. So I'm like, oh, I'm noticing it's doing this. So I'm just going to put it back to that point. You can also breathe into it, like a deep diaphragmatic breath. So you breathe as deep down as you can and put your energy on that and then exhale. And as you do that, like you're focusing on that, you're going to notice yourself kind of relax into it. Like I just got like more chill. Like it actually kind of, my mind isn't as active when I actually like put my attention down on that space. So that mindfulness, like you basically can do that for just a few, like for about a minute, and it should like relax. Yeah, it should relax kind of like our minds are just super active. We always want to figure things out and we want to figure out whether or not things are good or bad because that's what our brains do. Is this thing that just happened good or bad? Like basically, is this going to kill me? Or is this going to help me survive? And our brains are made to do those all the time. The problem is that when our brains were developed, we had very little stimulus. We were just hanging out in the same place where something new happening would just be like, actually nothing new would happen, just the seasons. Sometimes new people would come in and then our brain would get kicked on and we'd be like, who are these people? Are they going to kill us? Or are they going to be our friends? In the world that we live in, that happens all the time. Like constantly like, oh, is this good? Is this bad? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? I got to do this. I got to figure that out. I got to do that. I got to do this. All of that energy of figuring all that out is like the fire mind trying to judge basically what's good and what's not. Which we obviously need to judge what's good and what's not. But like Chance, to your point for balance, if you can at least build in time of your day where you're not engaged in that mind and relax into like being open and receptive to what's like, to just what your body's telling you, that's probably going to be huge.
And I had it at the end of last year. And it was funny when I did the thing I wanted to do so badly, which was chase this dream, I lost it. Because I can't turn it off, right? The only time I can do it is when I'm in nature. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be going outside for a couple of days.
I wish you luck and keep up the good work.
One other thing I just wanted to say too, so my project, I'm actually writing like a little mini comic book, or just a comic book, I guess. And what I'm hoping to get from each of you, I sent out an email and thank you, like half of you have filled these out. I want to have you guys be characters in my comic. And I just need you to fill out a portal thing. It takes like 5 minutes. It can take like 15 if you go deep on it. But yeah, so I'll send that back out via email, but I'm hoping everybody can submit one of those things to me because it's like a part of my story. That would be awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Chance. Yeah, I love doing that exercise with you earlier. Yeah. Dana, Kendra?
I was going to say I would like to share because Sean just wrapped up my share that I feel like, and you put it much more eloquently than I wrote about it, but that I have been able to let go of this tension of always trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what I should do, what I should do. And literally I said, like, I just feel like I've gotten into acceptance and allowance and just writing, I think. And I've kind of not been super great about it recently, but just the idea of have that thought, put it down on paper, kind of just continue to write. And then my mind just really relaxes. And it's not like you're writing down anything for an answer or a test or anything like that. But I think the biggest takeaway is that I've been able to get into a more relaxed and fun and allowing place, and less of a right, wrong, black, white, what am I going to do? I might mess this up. So I want to take that with me and continue doing it. And I want to make the free writing a more prominent habit.
Okay, this is a good tie-in to where I want to go. So I want to go with Kendra, but this like goes exactly where I want to go, like as the final activity as well. Our schooling system is fucked up because it's built for administrative ease. Like I basically need to measure you all to figure out how to move you forward, which means some of you are going to do it right enough to pass and others of you aren't. And some of you are going to do it so right that we're going to give you an A. And others of you are going to do it kind of right, so we'll give you a B. And others of you will give it, you know what, okay, C, right? I heard on Clubhouse someone say, we give grades to meat, eggs, and bonds. Surely we have to have a more humane way to measure human beings we're measuring their learning processes. So grades are for the administration. In our culture, we learn this kind of like, well, am I doing this right or am I not? Which is really harmful, I feel like, to the learning experience. And one of the things that this is playing with is, what is it like to open up a learning container where there are no grades, where the final projects are super ambiguous, and it's basically just like, what do you want to do? I don't know. How are you going to do it? I don't know, which is kind of the weakness of and challenges of this, because it's like, what did you get? I don't know. How much progress did you make? I don't know. What grade would you give yourself? Is there even a grade at all? Like, what does that even mean? And so you saying like getting to this allowing place where you're not actually judging yourself is like a perfect like answer to my question of like, how would you grade does that question even make sense in this context? Like, how would you assess what you've done? And how would you do it better if you did it again? Which is where we're going to go. That was like going to be the end. But yeah, Dana, I'm curious what you have to say about that.
Well, I just think that it's really funny because if I look at just 7 weeks, and at the beginning I was like, okay, I've got all the books. I've got all the like stuff. I have my pencil. I've done like pre-reading. I've like thought about the project and what I'm going to do. And I was just very like, I'm going to get an A. And then I think I had a little bit of a meltdown like week 3, which is kind of funny to me, of like, I'm not doing this right. And I don't know how to do this. And I don't know what I'm doing. Man, I'm really uncomfortable with it. And then it was kind of like, I think it was the serendipity week that completely changed my perspective. And then I would give myself actually an A because I let go of all that. Like, I got to read all these books and write all this stuff and like finish a project and turn it in. And now it's just like, I feel much more in touch with some thoughts and kind of my place in my world, and just kind of getting the hang of life a little better than I probably did 7 weeks ago. So I would give myself an A, but I definitely thought I was going to get an F like 3 weeks ago.
I love that. And by virtue of by virtue of letting go of your A, you have gotten your A.
Yes.
It's like
which is
super zen.
Yes. So, no, it's good.
Awesome. That is for our next, in terms of where we're going, I do want to hear from Kendra, and I have a tiny bit more to say from mine that I didn't share too, but how would you assess what you did? How would you, like, what grade would you give yourself? Because I do actually think grading does help in terms of like identifying, but I wouldn't do that. I'm just thinking like, what did you do well, and what would you want to do better next time?
Are you asking me specifically, or is
No. This is like for everyone, because I just, and maybe I'm jumping the gun on this, but it just felt too perfect from Dana's share that this is like, it's interesting. No one's brought it up yet, But from the first session, almost everyone said, this was weird because I feel like I'm just now beginning what I feel like this course was getting me to do. Like, I feel like at the end, I'm like now at the beginning of what this course is trying to get me to do. And now I have like, now I'm going to be working on this for a while. And we haven't had any of those kind of, I mean, it's kind of like that, but a little different. So I'm thinking like, this is a 7-week time frame, a unit of time. And I think there's a lot of power in boxing a unit of time and being like, this is what I'm going to try to do for this amount of time. And then I'm going to get to that point and I'm going to reflect back what went well, what didn't go well, how could I do better? Like that whole diagnostic designing your life stuff. What kind of environments was I working well in? What times a day was I working well in? How could I optimize and maximize that? What were the ways I was engaging with people that weren't helping? What were the things I was doing that was helping? Then I can do it again and again. And now we're in a position to be lifelong learners where we're the teachers. Then all you need, like to your point, Kelly, is some other people to hold you accountable. If you do that with one other person, you set up a meeting time with them. And now this investment that you've made in this workshop allows you the framework and perspective to continue to do your own workshop, however you want to do it, with whoever wants to be along there, with the material that you have access for forever, in your own way. Like that's supposed to be like the value add that I still am just mind blown that no one ever taught me in school. It's like, no, you actually can be in charge of your own education. You just need to know how to ask the questions, to set up the experiments, and then reflect on the responses that you are then getting from those experiences. Oh, and you have to do it with other people because if you're just alone, it's way harder, if not impossible.
Sean, can I ask you a question? And you don't necessarily have to answer it now, but maybe we talk someday somewhere because it's kind of a huge question. But do you see a future in education where the existing system changes and shifts a little bit? Do you think there's enough energy, kind of like there is with like, you're right, fossil fuels? Like clearly we need to get off of fossil fuels, but like what you've talked about with your students and stuff, right? They're miserable, they're frustrated, they're unhappy, they're discouraged, they're scared, right?
Some
like,
of them.
Do you, not all of them, of course, right? But do you see a shift that had happened in traditional education, or do you think the shift is going to happen outside in more like micro learnings like this, where a parent could bring their kids into something, or a high schooler could find it and participate on their own time? I mean, or do you see it as something that could be added to the existing educational system?
I think that's a question we should have later. I think it happens in both.
I kind of want to just plant the seed.
No, let's have that conversation later. I think it's both.
Love it. I'm making a note. Okay.
I want to go to Kendra and stay focused on the people in here.
That thought did lead me to another thought combined with what you were just saying, Sean. So what Chance is saying is there a potential for a shift in education in the future? Combine that with the fact that like I'm always seeing programs for younger kids, or there was a program that had just failed in the college that I went to. It's all about designing your own education. And I feel like I see those come up and go by the wayside and come up and go by the wayside. And I feel like kids who are homeschooled get to do that more often than kids who go to a public school system. And I see, over time, teachers or administrators or students making this push to like, I want to design my own project. I want to design my own degree. I want to do this thing. And then ultimately, I wonder if you've seen that happen, Sean, and if it fails again because of an administration, like we don't know how to standardize this so that your piece of paper that you get has a value equivalent to everybody else's piece of paper. Like, is that the problem? I mean, because I feel like kids are learning, but I wonder if it's because our education is designed to make worker bots and not lifelong learners, if that is why it continues to fall by the way. It continues to come up, but it seems like it continues to fall by the wayside.
And there's so much here that this is why This is one of the most lively conversations on Clubhouse because there's so many pieces to this and so many parts around it. It's so complex.
Right. And it's not a new thought. I feel like it's a
No.
perennial problem.
Yep. And I think we just have more people going through school. Like there's just
Right.
more humans now.
And more humans being like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. I mean, there's just, yeah. I think we're going to begin and continue to see way more proliferation of all kinds of things. Like this is an example of a little tiny micro school. And there's others like it that are popping up that have their own little philosophies and methods and communities and, you know, increasingly alumni networks and other like kinds of offerings.
I have to say that I am refreshed and inspired to know and see the idea that school and micro learning opportunities and workshops aren't just for people who are under the age of 22, 23 years old. That your learning doesn't stop at 18 when you get a piece of paper, or 22 when you get a piece of paper. And I do think that that's a prevailing thought that's toxic for our society.
Yeah.
So I think it's a mistake to call adults who go back to school non-traditional learners and you sort of cut that stuff off. So I'm really glad that we're doing this. That wasn't my takeaway. So my takeaway is going to seem kind of watered down and dumb for this, I feel like, because, and tell me if it's a cop-out. One, I have enjoyed so much about this workshop, but one of the things that has been absolutely my favorite, and I know that I have an advantage over everybody else because I know another participant in person, but one of my favorite takeaways has been seeing my sister go through this process and to have a shared vocabulary that we can use together and to sort of like, you know, when she experiences success, I feel successful too. Like when I saw her go through this letting go of, I mean, you guys don't know her like I do, but when she went through the week where she was like, finally, I don't have to know where I'm going to be able to start my journey, I saw that happen in real time, and that was so cool. And I know that that's happened to some degree with everybody else, and I really treasure having been a part of that for everybody else, these realizations that all of you guys have had. I feel so special to have been included, but the real difference I feel like is because I know Dana so well, I see her all the time. That's been so cool to me to see it sort of unfold and evolve in real time. So I like that about every single person in this whole class, but especially my sister. So
It's not watered down at all.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Not a cop-out.
Yeah. Also, I do like, now that I have a little toolkit of things to check in with myself about the good life, about how to pick a project. Maybe I'm not so good yet about how to execute a project still. I'm better, always getting more tools, but how to use the gauges to pick what the project is and define the parameters, and then and be comfortable with closing out the project and then looking back at the project and using my gauges to pick a new project. Like I feel comfortable that the cycle has been set up for me. So.
Yeah, I also feel like that's at the end of the workshop, I'm like, I didn't get done what I wanted to get done.
Right?
But, you know, I don't know if that's really what's important. Like, I just feel like that kind of outcome-based learning is not as helpful as like focusing on the process that we're in.
Right.
You know?
And I did do some of that. I did move the ball down the field a little bit. Like, I did sign up for a swap meet that I'm going to do this weekend. I did update my business cards, make new business cards. I did
it's like awesome.
Cards for my, you know, to send to a mailing list that I have defined. So I did move it forward.
You did make a connection with the woman that got the wrong postcards when we were doing the week on.
Yeah, so I did do that, but that wasn't the stuff that made me the most proud, I think. It was stuff that I needed to do and I felt good doing it, but it wasn't what was the lasting impact, I think.
Yeah, and what's the lasting impact? Just feeling like you're a part of other people's journeys, like kind of
Yeah,
witnessing other people transform.
yeah, I think so. And to sort of like continue to make it easier on myself to repeat the process. I mean, instead of just sort of like bumbling around in the dark, to be like, oh, now I have a system for this. Instead, I mean, because I sort of do things intuitively. Like I will come up with seasons for my life. Like now I'm focusing on this and now I'm focusing on this, but then backing up and saying, well, why am I focusing on this? And how long am I focusing on this? And how can I make that more effective? It's like that framework above what I was sort of doing by instinct. Now I can do it better because I have a formula.
Awesome. That ties into my other one that I feel I got the sense that this is something I'm like redoing. Like I got that returning sense again. And there's like, and then the other thing that I wrote down is the idea that the good life is helping others live the good life. From like week 4 when Kellie when she was like, yeah, I didn't really have that big of a week, but I did like help my friend manifest her destiny. I was like, oh, well, that's like actually kind of really amazing. And like maybe that is what it's all about. And like maybe that's the frame. It's like so simple to put it like that. But in thinking about, you know, and like I could get so caught up in these other things that I'm trying to do, but it's like hearing you all talk is like it's amazing. It's like this is a successful experiment. So maybe like we don't have like these amazing projects to share with everybody. Like I could imagine a version of this class where it's like a PowerPoint presentation where we all like show up and we're like, let me show you what I completed over the last 6 weeks. Slide 1, my challenges. Slide 2, my triumphs. Slide 3, look at this amazing thing I created. And here's what I learned. Next presenter, please. It's like, oh, wow. Look at everything my students did. But instead, and that like perception of it's like, this workshop, like, how do I get my students to, should I use grades? Should I make them turn in things every week? Like, how do I get them to do what they need to do? And that's all bullshit. Like in a certain regard, or I mean, maybe it's not bullshit, but I feel like the real power is like seeing perspective shift, right? That's the whole like metaphor of what philosophy is for. It's like, how can I look at my life in a way that makes me feel happier and healthier? And I have like a little glimpse of that. And now I can take that and I'm like, that's super valuable. And I do think that happens in different ways for different people. And I know it's happening for me in different ways. So it's like, that's kind of what, that I'm just like clarifying my goals a little bit more, moving forward a little bit more, letting this thing grow organically as it will, showing up to the pages every day, just seeing what comes up, being true to that part of the process, making videos for fun, not for trying to go viral, because that doesn't work. Just trying to share what I love, with the world. I have the Howard Thurman quote behind me that don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come fully alive. Because what the world needs, or no, ask what makes you come fully alive and then go do it. Because what the world needs is people who are fully alive. And I think that's true. Like for me, like I feel like all of the progress that I've made in every area of my life is because I've like I've like been fully alive inside of it. And
I feel like when Chance was talking about how he's in this, like a little bit in this dark night of the soul moment right now about whether you're doing the right thing for your family, whether you're doing the right thing for your co-founders, there's a lot of very good information out there that I feel like could lead you to know that if you feel that passionately about it, it is the right thing, like what Sean just said. And then I just now went back and found a quote that I read in one of our readings that I'll put in the chat to sort of the same effect. And it's like those dark night of the soul moments, you kind of need have that ammunition. I feel like I do, to have something at your fingertips to reinforce why you're doing what you're doing. So there's another one. That what Sean just said reminded me of that.
Yeah, and I
That's
was
such
gonna
a great.
say,
I was just saying. Oh, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Kendra has this fun saying that she's like, do it for fun, do it for buddies. And like, that's sort of a guiding thing. And she's like, well, is it fun? Are you doing it for buddies? And so I think that that's what both Sean and Chance are doing. In a way, maybe buddies is expanded to like the greater community around you and maybe the universe, but do it for fun, do it for buddies.
I gotta appropriately accredit the person who I stole that quote from, though. That's a Aaron Draplin saying. I don't know if Nick and Chance, being designers, if you guys are Aaron Draplin fans, but I went to a talk of his at CSU a couple of years ago. It was great. It was, he's a really cool dude, and that was his attitude. And I was like, you know what? That guy's got the right idea. I think he probably lives the good life.
And I changed the title of this workshop from writing the good life to writing a good life. To really, I think there's, like, from way I was saying, is that there's formulas for a good life. Meaningful project, and this is a good place to kind of wrap up in terms of where we started. Meaningful projects of worth. So we're doing something we're engaged in. A sense of purpose. So a sense of why are we doing them? And people. Thanks, Kendra. I was just going to ask. So do we have projects of worth? Do we have a sense of purpose? And do we have people? And then I added from that a sense of presence. So you're actually like present to those things. And maybe a sense of process. Like you realize that it's actually in process. But I feel like if those are the guidelines for the good life, a good life could be anything. Like it doesn't, like, I don't want to like say, oh, like, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. It's like that measurement question. How do we measure what matters? Or should we even measure what matters? Should we not measure what matters? In business, they say measure what matters. And I think that's really important to kind of see and to, I heard AM say something in Clubhouse the other day that seems to speak to your situation, Chance, that there's a lot of artists that struggle with the question, how are we going to eat? Where a lot of like, there's a lot of like, what did he say? Business tycoons that just live on the question, what can we devour? And I do think there's like the part of his work. Do you know, are you follow AM Bot? AM, like,
I don't think so.
Oh
No.
man, he is
Awesome. Okay.
amazing.
Check him out.
AMBHATT. He helps artists that are doing passion work like get the money equation right, because that's the hardest part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, we're going to be in touch. I need help recruiting more people that would benefit from this. Being a mission-driven organization, anybody that can benefit from this, I want them to do it, even if they don't have the money to do it. You know, making it affordable or giving it to people that can't afford it, but that will benefit from it. So if you know people that are in that boat, I would love for you to send them my way. If you want to, I've played with like a referral model that if you know people that would benefit from it and you want to recruit people, I would, you know, give you 20% of any tuition to kind of help as another, if, you know, as an incentive to get people. Again, if they're on a needs-based scholarship, you just get the karma of knowing that you brought someone something good. But I'd be curious about your ideas on how to grow or what I should do with my 20,000 new TikTok followers to help spread goodness. because now I got, well, you know what they say, mo TikTok followers, mo problems. No, although I do.
I think that's probably pretty accurate, actually.
Terrible. Actually, no, there's been some really good discussions in the comments of the videos, but I am, the other thing that's interesting to me moving forward out of this course is I do feel like I am even more convinced that community is like clutch and that we are hungry for it. And like talking community around things that matter is so important. And I mean, I get really sad thinking that so many people don't have that. And so if, go ahead, Chance.
I was just going to jump in and say, you know, certainly in my, like our target audience for Viridescent is like the sustainability champion or hobbyists, right? I mean, these are people that are standing up to these big problems. Like you saw me kind of overwhelmed by it, right? The climate anxiety and all this stuff. That is specifically who we're talking to. And like our email list especially is that group of people. They could benefit so greatly from what you're doing. So I'll definitely be in touch because I think there's a ton of value for them to participate in something like this. I really do. So yeah.
Yeah. And
Hey, Sean.
John.
So when someone writes a book, other people whose opinions are appreciated put their quoted comments on the back of it, thereby hopefully inspiring more people to read it, right? So where's a place that I could leave a comment that other people would see about how awesome the course was, or like what it did for me? Like where
testimonial type stuff?
Yeah, where can I advertise my experience for you? On TikTok, on Instagram, I mean everywhere, somewhere in particular?
I'll send you a link to Google Business. You can leave it on Google. And then I will also, so then people will say, it will be able to see it has 5 stars and you'll be able to say really amazing things about it.
Well, I'll send you the comment before you can.
That's not how reviews work.
Oh, it's not? I don't know.
It totally is how reviews work. On book publishing, that is totally how they work.
I'm just joking.
Hi,
Yeah.
I've edited your
That's
blurb.
how friends work.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate that. And I will be in touch because I basically, that's the growing pain that I have felt where I want to be doing this work and I want to be connecting with people and talking with people on the phone and trying to find the people that you take it for granted as a teacher in a university that the students just show up at your door every semester. And again, only 1/10 of them are meant for you. So you have to, in this, it's like 9/10 of my students are completely meant for me, if not 100%, but they don't come to your door. Like you need to get them to your door.
I want to sign up my landlord.
Awesome.
He's a 52-year-old white Zen guy. Me too. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'll be in touch. I think that's a really good question, Johnny. Thank you.
Will you send us all that link for the Google?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yes, I will. I did make like a little exit survey that just kind of, but you guys have said such wonderful things and I know it's honest. I am thinking about kind of just doing an open house meeting next week at the same time to just kind of see whoever shows up. And then I'll be sending you emails. We'll have, I think I said the last Wednesday of every month at 7:30. Yeah, the last Wednesday of every month. So on May 26th at 7:30, which is 3 weeks from now, we'll have a tentative meetup. Or it's a meetup, but it's just like an informal one. What I'm hoping is that's at 7:30 after my other class that starts. You can set some kind of a deadline for yourself or some kind of accountability. give yourself that much time if you want to get further on your project or do something else like that. And then I'm going to look forward to hearing from you as it moves forward. And Dana, I'm so glad you had the talk with your dad too. I felt like that was like, I kind of like sent out a prayer at the beginning. I was like, I hope this workshop like helped. And it was from our conversation before the class. I'm like, well, I hope this workshop will help you resolve that. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I hope it does. And then when that happened like week 3, I was like, zing, the workshop is a success.
Yes.
All gravy boat from here. Because Dana worked it out with her dad.
That's the biggest success story of this whole thing, right? Gotta be.
I feel like that's a pretty big one.
Yeah,
That's a
I
pretty big
appreciate
one.
it. Yeah, it's cool.
All right. Well, I don't feel as lonely anymore. That's what I'm going to end with. Not that I really feel that lonely, but sometimes I do. And I don't feel that lonely in this group.
Is it cool with everybody if we keep that kind of email chain available in case we want to check in?
I hope so. Honestly, that would be really, really neat to be like, oh, remember that? Remember this? Hey, y'all, I wonder what, because I think asking for help is the other piece of this class that's really interesting to me, that also breaks the traditional model of education. It's like, Johnny, what grade did you get? It's like, no, no, no. The question is, Johnny, how much did you ask for help? How much did you help others? And what kind of problems did you get into?
That'd be a really good way to grade.
Yeah. That's how we should do it.
I have one more share, actually, brief. I've been thinking of building the courage to say it because it's like, I don't know, I'll just say it. I just wanted to say I'm officially attached to all of you and care about you greatly. So I really hope I see all of your faces at the end of the month. And if anyone needs anything at all, I'm just an email away, call away, or anything. Really love all of you. You're great. So
Me too. Thanks for saying that, Nick. I totally agree.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
We
part of
formed
something neat.
community.
It's true.
Yes. What'd you say, Chris?
I said we've like formed a community now.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like ask for help. And I think this is a special one. It's always like every second grade teacher tells you that you're the best class she's ever had. And I remember in second grade being like, you fucking liar. You say that to every class. And now I'm like, I could actually see that.
They say it to every class and they mean it every time.
This is my favorite workshop I've ever run. So yeah, but don't tell my other workshops I said that. No, I don't. I also feel that way. So definitely like reach out, follow up. I appreciate it. And yeah, we can do the socials and yeah, any other ideas too? That's kind of the exit survey. If you have ways to make this better, or you have access to all the materials, and I'll be sending you some more stuff on. You guys know where I am on IG too. I'm just Sean Waters _, but it's on the Wisdom Workshop link to that too. I've re-picked up the haiku and nature photography practice. It's been good.
Oh, also one more quick share. I just wanted to say that like my project's been like all over the place. So it's kind of just abstract. But the first idea I had for a project was basically a project designed to help me get a job because I just graduated my program and I wanted to find a job. And so in other words, even though I didn't like actually complete the project I set out for, I've achieved my goal because I started one contracting job last week and another contracting job earlier this week. So I'm working like two contracting jobs I could both lead into full time. And I was so excited. It was my first time working at like a real job in like a few years. Like I was just working delivery jobs and Lyft and waiting tables, and I was so overwhelmed like starting my first day of work last week that I was literally like sobbing in my car for like 10 minutes straight out of like sadness, excitement, joy, fear, like every emotion at the same time. And then I was petrified that they would think I was high walking in because my eyes were bloodshot from crying so much in the car. But it's just been really stressful the last 2 weeks because I'm not used to working like this at all. But I just wanted to share that with everyone because just wanted to share my victories, not just bad stuff. And I'm just really excited, and I'm glad that I got to start at a time with all of you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because I'm remembering like your first share of the class, and you're like, I'm just basically a new adult, and I'm like, I'm just like trying to get a job, and so I'm gonna do this thing. It's gonna help me get in position to get a job, right?
Yeah.
And now you're like, I've got 2 jobs, and I cried myself into the door, and now I'm like a man.
Yeah, that's a good summary.
You get an A.
Yeah, A. Yeah, way to go, Nick. That's awesome. You say that you got 2 contract jobs from the work that you started with the Wisdom Workshop?
Pretty much, yeah, I could say that.
All right. I'm glad, and I feel better about continuing to do this work thanks to all of you. So
Just Sean, to give you another kick in the ass on that, honestly, in all of my life, this is the most like memorable, special, unique learning atmosphere I've ever been in, ever like even in work and career, and this is the coolest thing I've ever participated in, so keep going.
that's a good testimonial.
Yeah.
So is Nick's. You'll be held to high standards. Like I got 2 jobs, and
I know. I also need to like put the disclaimer, like I am not giving like
Results not typical.
results not typical. Yeah.
A dangerous game. Yes, dangerous
right.
game.
That's right. Yeah. I was just trading emails with someone that was like, yeah, I'm having mental health issues. I feel like I'm making progress, but then I just get more anxious and more stressed out. And I'm like, yeah, you got to get to a point where you see more anxiety and more stress is not a bad thing, to just undo that. Like if you're holding yourself to a standard that you're measuring yourself up against, it's going to suck all the time. You just got to get to a point where it's okay to be more stressed. And he's like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
wait, maybe I will sign up for your course. Maybe I can do it.
Stop assigning meaning to your stress.
Yeah, don't evaluate it. Like I should have said, put your hand right below your belly button.
Like this.
Connect to your Don. Yeah, like, do you have your camera on? And yeah, connect to your water wisdom mind. Yeah, that's all you need to do. All right, well, this is the beginning of a learning journey, not the
Thank you.
end. I do hope that the format is helpful. It seems like it was, and continue to keep the channels open, and we will continue to keep the learning vibe going. It's awesome. It's a great group. I appreciate you all very much. It was very special.
Thank you, Sean. It's
Thank
just
you.
a huge gift to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Johnny, it's awesome seeing you.
You too.
Enjoy the paradise you're in, and the lumber clearing or whatever it is that you do with your manly self out there.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
See,
Thanks, everyone.
yeah, I know. No one's leaving the meeting.
It's like the
I
longest
can't. I
Who's gonna
know.
do it
To the
first?
train
Back
station.
away.
Who's logging
Should we do it?
out
We
first?
should do like a
All at once.
countdown on 3.
2, 3.
Give us more
Yeah.
questions to answer, Sean.
Yeah. Okay. How do you say farewell in your own language? However you normally say farewell.
Oh, that's a good one.
So
Bye.
bye.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Peace be
Peace
with
out.
you all.
Until next time.
Do it for fun. Do it for buddies.
that's right.
I'm keeping that one.
No one pressed the button. All
See
right.
you guys.
Everyone.
Good night, everyone.